Welcome to Windy Night Stories. Tonight's story is It's Steady Work. It's steady work. The hours are long, but it provides a bed every night and food every day of the week. If there are a few strange noises, a few little mysteries, there's a good reason. It's an old house. It's obvious nobody's lived there for a very long time, and it's badly decayed. Every part of every room needs to be renovated, recreated from the inside out. According to the girl, the owner cares nothing for the cost. The house must be repaired. On the third floor, currently not much more than the world's biggest pigeon coop, Pedro pauses to look out the broken window. He can see the countryside, roads and fields and roads, in an unending checkerboard to the edge of the horizon. The narrow black ribbon of highway slices past the front porch of the house and disappears on the other side of the sky's overturned bowl in a way that pleases him. Pedro has an affinity for roads. They beckon to him, call his name as softly as a woman's whisper. He knows that up that road he came, and on it he'll leave, sooner rather than later, if news of the trouble in the last town ever makes it here. What was the name of that town? See, he can't remember already. It's as if it never happened. He smiles. Any day now, he will close his eyes, spin, and take that highway in the direction he ends up facing. He will slip across the prairie and stop in at another place advertising for work when he gets hungry or tired. He has a skill, and there's work to be found wherever he goes. You're just what we need. You're just what we need, she had said, brushing her hair out of those hazel eyes. We need an electrician. I can wire anything, he told her. Worked for 2 different contractors in Chicago and 1 in Minneapolis. Did a freelance job in Kansas City about 4 months ago. She nods like she knows. That's what we need. No one else can handle the electrical. She's right. The house is a leaky sieve filled with men too big to wash through the holes, and every last one of them fears electricity the way a cat fears water. The men are all over the house, all the time. A couple of them are painting the outside, one doing the inside. A man named Glenn is redoing the plumbing, pipe by pipe, fixture by fixture. Another man is fixing the carpentry. There are others repairing walls and doing floors, but not one of them knows the first thing about electricity, except they don't like it. They all have the same arrangement, room and board for a good day's work. The rooms are as bad as the rest of the house, of course. Ceilings sagging, walls crumbling, floors warped like a board left out in the rain. But there is a bed and a nightstand, and 3 meals every single day. The house is huge. The house is huge. It's hard to believe it could have been built for a single family. But there it is, fat and tall in the middle of all these acres of farmland, like the enchanted castle in a fairy tale. What could the owner want to do with it? There must be 20 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and uncountable grand and dilapidated public rooms. Billy is a mason. He works on the fireplace in a dilapidated study and whistles as he lays stone on stone, layer upon layer of mortar. He is Indian, Pedro guesses, or Italian. Short, with bowed legs and an oversized mouth. Hey, says Billy, grinning, you look at this. This is art. His nose is streaked with cement, his hair powdered with rock dust. He is restoring a mantle of superhuman proportions, and his work is meticulous, perfect. Hey? He asks. It's fantastic, Pedro tells him around a mouthful of wires. Only about 100 fireplaces to go. You'll see. I'll get 'em. Just wire it up right, eh? Pedro always does. He has almost no formal training, but he served as an apprentice once, years back. The concept came to him easily. It's like a second language, only clearer, more efficient than any human language. The sheer orderliness of it attracted him in the first place. He has a list of phone numbers in his duffel bag, past jobs where they'll rave about him. Everyone knows the job he does. It's just that those peripheral matters sometimes make it impossible to have contact with former employers. What was the name of that town? He works like a dog. He works like a dog, like Billy, like everybody else. He runs coils and coils of wire through the plastered walls with a weight and a snake he's made from a wire coat hanger. The hours disappear into thin air. No one tells him what to do or how to do it. The girl cooks and smiles and wanders the house, but never offers suggestions or criticisms. He knows what needs to be done. Every wall is a little battle of strength and gravity and ingenuity. The copper end of the wire slithers through the utter darkness, seeking the light below. The house intervenes with mute obstruction. If he has to, he will punch a hole in the wall to redirect his line, but he prefers not to. It lacks finesse. The house is older than Adam, more devious than Eve. Whatever wiring is already in place is patchwork and inferior, a veritable death trap. Pedro has devised a master plan, in his mind only, of the house from top to bottom. While he works, he tries again to come up with the name of the last town and still cannot. Furthermore, he can't remember the names of a lot of the towns he's worked in, and he ponders this. The house is haunted. The house is haunted. That's what Lyle says. He's perched atop his ladder, thin as a rail, skeletal, sporting a shock of red hair and puff of crimson beard on his chin. He's carving a lacy border in the wood to complement the new ceiling in the ravaged ballroom, wood chips falling around his stepladder like hair on a barber shop floor. You must have seen them, he says, shaving another tenth of an inch off a delicate whorl. They're a blur, like one of those old photographs where someone can't sit still. Now you see them, now you don't. Pedro doesn't think he's seen them. He stays busy, and if something catches the corner of his eye, he just blocks it out. Oh no, says Lyle, they're everywhere, all the time, if you look. The ballroom is huge, airy. Its ceiling is as high as the sky. The windows are smashed, and the prairie wind blows tattered curtains in like billowing women's skirts. The wooden floor is stained and warped and covered in broken glass. Pedro is checking wires on the 3 great chandeliers that float above it all. He stops and gives Lyle a blank look. Lyle stares intently at him. Don't you see them? No, I don't think I do. They're everywhere. You can't miss them. Come up here and you'll see them. Not right now. I'm busy. Lyle nods. She knows about them, he says. You can tell. They both know who he's talking about. She laughs when Pedro tells her, throws her hair back like a spirited horse. Her eyebrows are thick, curved like crescents of the moon. Don't all old houses have ghosts? You cook like a Nazi. You cook like a Nazi, Koss, the painter, tells her. He is enormous, a gorilla in paint-spattered clothes. Despite his appearance, he is an excellent painter, his stubby fingers wielding a brush with surgical care. The girl laughs. So go someplace else. He won't. His great brooding eyes, sunk deep in his fleshy face, flash with anger. Gordo and Les look from his face to hers and giggle nervously, uncontrollably. They are gangly, wild-eyed, inseparable. They are painting the outside of the house. Paint slappers, Koss the perfectionist calls them. They, too, are splashed with dollops of paint. The thick lenses of Gordo's eyeglasses are always covered by a thin dusting of paint. She is not a great cook. Her scrambled eggs swim in a lake of sausage fat. Potatoes burn to the bottom of the pan. Meat is chewy and sometimes hard to identify. Nevertheless, everyone eats with great appetite, all of them, sitting together round the big table in the house's giant kitchen. Maybe there's something else you're good for, says Koss darkly. Les and Gordo explode into high-pitched laughter again, and Les rubs his tattooed arms like he's freezing. Leave her alone, Pedro says. You eat more than anybody else. Koss rises from his chair, jowls shaking. No one else moves. His rages are incandescent, but harmless. He wouldn't lay a hand on anybody. She knows something. She knows something, says Lyle, tugging his little red beard. Something she's not telling. About what? About this house. There's a secret, and she's keeping it from us. He is doing a lintel, carving mahogany to match the other 4 doors that open onto a great library. Around them, deep bookshelves climb to the ceiling, warped and blistered and blotched with stains. Keep those away from me, he says of the wires dangling from a wall socket. Take it easy. They're not even connected. Just keep them away from me. You worry about things too much. You'll see, there's more to it, and she's not letting on. Pedro shrugs. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the reason for his growing sense of unease. He's begun to see them. Every time he turns around, a shadowy thing is moving just beyond the field of his vision. He turns and expects someone to be there. He hears voices, low and mumbling. He climbs again to the 3rd floor and thinks he sees the ghosts of cars zooming down that single black ribbon of highway. Why does no one work the fields? He used to think he could see the rooftops of a town just on the horizon, maybe the town he just left. He could have sworn he saw the pointed steeple of a church when he first came up here, but now there's nothing but the unending expanse of waving fields. Now, suddenly, he's certain there's someone next to him. He can hear the breathing, feel the presence of another body. He lets the dark shape move in the corner of his eye, daring it to stay, willing it to prove itself real. He holds his breath and counts, in Spanish, to gain some objective measure of the time passing. The thing stays, and even though he can only see a shadowy sliver of it in the corner of his eye, it is clearly not a blowing curtain or a curl of wallpaper hanging down. It is human, moving and breathing. He snaps his head around, and there's nothing there. The room is empty. He breathes hard, frowning at the blank walls. It was there, though. He timed it, counted to... What did he count to? He should have done it in English, so it would stick in his mind. Now it's gone. He should go, he knows. When he stays too long in a place, bad things like this begin to happen. He should pack up and head down the road. Forget the room, forget the food, forget the coming winter. He should just toss down his tools and get out. Why hasn't he left already? At supper, Koss pushes his plate away after only 2 helpings. This is worse than prison food, he spits. There is a silence of shock. Every man stops with his mouth open in recognition. Gordo giggles. His skinny companion looks nervously around the table to see where all this will go. Nowhere, of course. She bats not an eyelash, spatula in hand. It isn't true, anyway. The food is no worse. Probably better. It must weigh 500 pounds. It has taken Pedro forever to get each little bulb connected to the finest wires imaginable, each nested like an egg in the little cup of its socket. It takes 4 men, straining and groaning, to get the chandelier off the ballroom floor and into the air between 2 step-ladders. Billy backs across the floor like a stubborn mule, pulling a rope attached to a pulley. Lyle wavers on the top rung of a step-ladder, steadying the chandelier as Glenn the plumber helps Pedro screw the base to a heavy bracket in the ceiling. As the weight comes off his shoulders, Lyle wipes his brow and starts in on Glenn about the ghosts. "I believe you," says Glenn. "There's something weird going on." "Eh?" says Billy, looking up from below. Glenn turns on the ladder to face Pedro. "What did you do yesterday?" "Worked." "Right. And you, Billy?" "Worked, I guess. And what else?" "What do you mean, what else?" "Ate," says Lyle. "Slept, I think." "Right. And when's the last time you did anything else? When's the last time you took a bath, washed your clothes, read a magazine, or watched TV?" He can see by the looks on their faces that he has them. He turns back to Pedro. "When did you come here? How did you get here? Lyle, when did you get out of prison?" Lyle's face has gone ashen. His hands shake as he grips the ladder. I don't remember doing that." "I don't either. I don't remember getting out. Don't remember getting here. Don't know how long it's been since I've been outside, or even how long I've been inside. I've been thinking about it. I think I've been here a long time." Pedro says nothing. Her door is ajar. Pedro has never been up here, though he's always known this is where she stays. This tiny attic room tucked under the eaves. As he knocks on the door, he can see through the crack, and the room is as tattered as the rest of the house. Yellow sunlight washes in through an oval window and spreads across the floor. She is barefooted, clear-faced, wrapped in a blue robe as she opens the door. "Where are we?" he asks. "What do you mean, where are we? Look out the window." "You know what I mean." Her smile is slow and perfect, a blanket being turned down on a bed. "You're here. What else is there? This is nowhere. We can't leave. We don't even know how we came. You have no right to keep us here." She moves away from the window, across the worn floorboards. "What makes you think I'm keeping you here? What makes you think I can leave? You know what's happening. You know more than we do. Tell us what you know. Is it so bad, Pedro? Can you tell me you haven't been worse places?" "You have no right." "Right?" She's angry now. "What do you know about right? Do you remember me, amigo?" "No, Do you remember what it felt like? Or just the surprise, just the flash when you thought I was finished?" Why is she familiar, like some image from a dream, or the painful floating pictures of faces he gets when he's sobered up after a bender? He is suddenly fascinated by her mouth. It's as if he knows it intimately, that wide, smooth embrace. "I don't remember," he tells her. "Don't you recognize me?" "I don't know you," he shouts, panic rising in his chest. "You don't remember what you did?" And then, worse, he does remember. Fleeting seconds in poor light, a body white and twisting, turning, soft like a fish under water, her face strange and beautiful all at the same time as she struggles, slaps, tries to free herself. Then, and this is so dim he can hardly remember it, she sits up, something black and menacing in her bloodied hands. The flashes come, bright and white. 1, 2, 3. They work non-stop. There is so much work to be done. From time to time Pedro catches sight of the burns, now that he's looking for them. There they are, on Billy's wrists and ankles, on Lyle's sloping forehead. The same burns Cos and Gordo and Les all have. Only Pedro is without the violent red marks, without the irrational fear. The girl smiles at him, touches his hands and face when the others aren't around. She reaches inside his shirt to feel the 3 round holes over his silent heart. The end.